Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Ogden City Council meeting for November 13th, 2018. Let the roll call reflect that all council members are present. And by present, I mean they're all in the building. We have a few that still have yet to come up. I also do want to kind of recognize, looks like we have a who's who in the audience today. We've got former Councilmember Amy Wicks, current Planning Commissioner Angel Castillo. We've got former candidates Lorraine Brown, Kathy Darby, and we have a council member wife, Janie Nadolski, in the audience too. So I want to make sure she was. Oh, we have a Taylor Knuth from the Diversity Commission. So there's a lot of you. We appreciate all of you being here. So with that, I'll turn the time to Vice Chair Nadolski for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. If you'd please rise and join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you would, please join us for a moment of silence. Thank you. For your information, there is a sign-up sheet for the public comment that's back on that table right there if you'd like to speak to the council. Not that you can't if you don't, but that will help us to kind of take an order for people that want to speak to the council. Also, I wanted to kind of, just for clarity tonight, tell you about our civility statement. It says, the City Council values all opinions and points of view as long as they are presented in a civil manner. The Council will not tolerate personal attacks, rudeness, disrespectful comments, insults, name-calling, or belittling comments. So as long as all those things work to everyone's advantage, we're happy to take any kind of public comment. Also, Councilmember White notified me that Chief Watt is here, and I didn't recognize him earlier, so appreciate you being here, Chief Watt. So we will open it up for public comment at this point, and so if you like to come forward and give us your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes, we'd appreciate it. Brandon's grabbing the lead. Nothing on the sheet. So,
my name is Kevin Irons. I used to be a resident of Ogden. I've recently moved. I heard about the war, waging war in Ogden City, and I thought I'd have to make some statements about that. Chief Watt is president and CEO of SRW. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's SRW.US. It's a company that trains military, trains police, and trains civilians. So I think that Chief Watt is in violation of the law, because he is waging war in Utah and America by training officers to shoot to kill. He has a conflict of interest with his job and his company, and I think he needs to be fired. He needs to be removed from his job. That's all I got to say.
Thank you for your opinion. Anyone else?
Amy Wicks, resident of Ogden. I actually heard the helicopters in my neighborhood at 1 o'clock in the morning and sat through the work session. I think instead of discussing how to better communicate with residents that we are going to terrorize their neighborhood at 1 o'clock in the morning, we should discuss how to prevent this from happening in the future. I don't think our community needs military training exercises like this going on. We are trying to get people to invest in East Central Ogden. Does this type of activity make it an inviting neighborhood? Does it make this a place where people will want to make it a neighborhood of choice and invest their dollars in the homes there? I don't think this helps at all. The building that was ground zero for this military exercise is owned by the citizens of Ogden. It is not owned by the employees of the Community and Economic Development Department who decided to work with a faceless contractor to inflict this activity on our community. Tom Christophilus, Brandon Cooper, Chief Watt, they don't live in Ogden. Would they be okay with this happening in their neighborhoods? I don't think they would. The area where this occurred has a large Spanish-speaking population, and from what I can tell, there was not a single effort made to do outreach with that community before or after this happened, and that is really not acceptable. And the follow-up from Ogden Police Department the next day was tone-deaf and really offensive. Helicopters and guns being fired are not the sound of freedom to people, many who've served our country in the military and have PTSD. I work with some families who have kids in care in their home in that neighborhood, and those kids have PTSD. You're given notice that something's happening at 8 p.m. You can't even get them out before, they've gone to bed. So I want to know, how much was Ogden City compensated for this fiasco? Did the contractor pay us for use of the building? Did they pay us for police time? What sort of money was exchanged there? And are you going to be paying, who's going to be paying for the therapy for people with PTSD that were triggered by this? You can refer them to community resources, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll get care or that care will be paid for. So I just want you to take those things into consideration. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Do we want to address those questions before we hit the next person?
If you don't mind.
No, go ahead. Vice Chair Nadolski, why don't you go take a stab at that?
Well, we talked about a lot of those things in the work session. I think we made it clear, at least the mayor made it clear from his perspective, as long as he's here, we won't be hosting those exercises again in this community. I've made the same point clear online. I'll make them point clear now. If I have anything to say about it, those kinds of exercises wouldn't be taking place. We did talk about outreach to all communities. That's a challenge that we have not done well and need to do better. There's no doubt about it. But when we talk about communications with residents, I do not intend for that to mean that we need to communicate better about how we're going to have those kinds of exercises in our community, because like I said, I have absolutely no intention of ever letting that happen again in our community. What were the other questions, Chair Hyer?
Payment. Did we receive payment? And the answer also was answered.
The question was also answered in the work session, that no, there was not a single dollar received. What else was on the list?
What about money payment for our office?
Payment for treatment.
Oh, so we made, that was one of the last points I think we made in the work session, was the list of resources we've compiled, community resources that we wish to share with folks. So if you know of someone who needs access to resources or a list of resources, we're anxious to find out who, so we can help share those.
Are you going to pay for it?
We don't ask, we take questions like
Yeah,
that.
I think that's a question that I don't think we have an answer for. Okay, all right, next.
Good evening. Thank you to everybody on the council for giving me a few minutes to come up here and speak with you all. My name is Malik Dio. I live on 2679 Jackson Avenue. I'm a community activist here in Ogden for a police accountability and jail death accountability, and I'm very active in the community with those things, as well as Black Lives Matter. It really startled me that evening when the gunfire and the explosive sounds were going on. I am a 10-year veteran of the United States Army. Most of it was active duty. I also served in the Persian Gulf, and I also suffer from PTSD. So it really wasn't a good feeling that night. It was an actual horrible experience. Definitely, that's something I feel that most of the citizens in the city do not want in the future. We don't want a town with, I certainly don't want my granddaughter being raised in a town with military backdrop and operations happening in our neighborhood, for sure. I don't like the fact that my windows were rattling, and I live like four or five blocks away from where it happened, and it seemed like it was just right nearby. I think it was totally irresponsible for this boondoggle to take place. I think it was. I wanted to thank you all for responding right away online and putting out your apology, even though it was none of your fault because none of you all knew about it. But I believe there should be some type of accountability, and if there is, who is that accountability going to be for? That's one question I have. And it's hard for me to imagine that there wasn't any type of monetary gain from this, whether it was utilizing the building or paying the police overtime or whatever may have taken place, but there's I think there's a little bit more to that. But I definitely believe if I can be told I can't have a chicken in my backyard, that we can definitely pass an ordinance to prevent any future military operations in Ogden. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you for your service as well.
Appreciate your service.
Chair Hyer?
Yes, stand by. Yeah, go ahead.
May I address my
Sure,
make a quick
please
comment?
do.
So, just wanted to say, I think there are some people in the audience that may feel more comfortable speaking Spanish, and if you don't mind me just making an announcement that we will be.
Go ahead, please do.
Si hay personas aquí que nos están visitando hoy que quisieran venir a hablar con nosotros en español, para que sepan que yo con mucho gusto les puedo traducir, si se sienten más a gusto de esa manera. Gracias.
And you will translate
Absolutely.
back and forth. Okay,
If it
great.
happens, and I mean, they may not be
Sure.
here to speak, but
Sure.
just in case. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Go ahead, Angela.
Oh, no, I don't think I have any answers for that.
Oh.
We had some questions already.
And you would like to respond to Mr. Dio?
Do we pay the police overtime?
I'd be happy to, and I would offer my sentiments and thank you for your service. We appreciate what you've done. And as was mentioned in the work session, certainly the scale and intent we weren't aware of, and that's not something we're coming to invite. And your comment at the end, if you can say whether you can have a chicken or not versus helicopters flying overhead, is certainly well taken. We do and have offered a sincere apology for everything that happened. If you want to talk to who's accountable for the end of it, all these employees work for me, and at the end of the day, that is on me to be accountable for. So I appreciate that. I can tell you that no compensation occurred. The intent and goal for this was to be supportive of our military. When our people work with some of our military friends, it does help us improve communications, and drills like this point out weaknesses in what we're doing in our systems, and this was certainly the case. We found a lot of weaknesses in what we do, and we're committed to addressing them. But I appreciate you being here. I'm sorry for your discomfort and fear, and I do appreciate your service, and we're committed to correcting it.
Several military bases that are able to accommodate that type of training on base, where that's a common thing to take place rather than in our neighborhoods. And I think it's ridiculous for the police.
Hey, Malik, we really don't have a method by which we can, communicate to people
Well, and as
sitting,
mentioned, it
so-
won't happen again.
Yeah, so,
So there's no need to download the third-party app then.
the-
What about the
Talking about
Oh,
Code Red?
the Code Red? Well, I did, hoping that it will help, but hopefully it'll help. Okay, go ahead.
Hey.
Chair Hyer, just, no, I'll wait.
Okay.
Excuse me, I'll wait. Thank you.
Kim Boucher, do you guys have to state my address too?
You don't have to say your address.
So I've already spoken with most of you, I think directly or indirectly. I've posted comments publicly and in private. I was really frustrated. I'm still frustrated with the lack of communication from admin. I really wish we had seen your face. I felt a lot more pleased with your comments, hearing them and seeing your face, and feeling the emotion. I think a video might have gone a lot further than a letter that I assumed was written by Cindy and approved by God only knows, whoever else. I live in that neighborhood on purpose. I've said that repeatedly. And I can't express to you, like I have my children were there. My dad has PTSD. It really doesn't matter. My personal story doesn't matter. This particular instance doesn't matter. I think it points out blatant holes in the communication process between admin and council, but also between the PIO officers. I'm really frustrated to hear that there was never an intent for this to be posted on the master Facebook page. And I think hearing from the police department that there were things scheduled, whether or not that's factual and then pulled back, I think speaks volumes about the lack of a values statement around public information. I think if there was a clearly expressed statement of value and who is involved and who we're communicating with and how and when, I don't think that judgment call would have been made in the way that it was. And I don't think the timeline that we're looking at would have been the way that it was either. I do appreciate the comments and input and consideration by council. I appreciate the letter that you posted on Facebook. I think a lot of it was too late. I appreciate that you're hosting this here tonight. I know this situation in some circles, people are saying has been beaten to death. And maybe in this particular situation, there's nothing else to be said. But in terms of communication, there still needs to be a process improvement. And we've heard that you're signing on board with that as chair and vice chair. We've heard that that's a commitment to you. I don't think we see that in the budget. I don't think that we see that in the way that the public offices and hiring process is managed as well. So those are my comments. Thanks.
Thanks, Kim.
Hi, everyone. Taylor Knuth, 726 25th Street. I want to address this issue from a perspective that I think hasn't been mentioned. I was in D.C. at the time, and I woke up at 3:30 in the morning to my little sister calling me, and it was 1:30 here. Just days before this, there had been another instance on Adams and 21st, I believe, where there were helicopters and there was shooting, and I do believe that it ended in somebody getting shot. And that was an instance where I was at work just a few blocks away. I called my sister and said, just stay inside. So she calls me in this, and it's amplified because our backyard is the Rite Aid. And so I get passionate about this community because me and my husband, Sean, chose to invest in this neighborhood specifically because of the proximity to downtown and the trails. And I just want every decision maker in this room to think if this Rite Aid were located on Bonneville Shoreline or Skyline Drive, if this decision to hold this drill would have been made. We're fighting an uphill battle when it comes to the perceptions in East Central Ogden, and I think it's an important question to ask whenever anything is done in regards to military exercises or even tactical training of our police in regards to the SWAT training. And I'm happy to provide solutions. I know that the Ogden Diversity Commission is waiting to be contacted on ways to improve communication with this neighborhood specifically. So we'll be waiting for that email.
Thanks, Taylor. Appreciate it. Anyone else wish to address the council?
Bill Castillo, 1260 25th Street. I'd like to thank the council first and foremost for their expedient action in providing a response. I spent a lot of time online and Facebook and saw many groups chattering and posting, a lot of afraid people, a lot of people who were on both sides of the fence. And I think the council did an amazing job with pulling together a actual physical place to talk about something and then putting responses online. So I'd like to commend you all for operating with what appears appears that the city doesn't have a crisis management plan. Particularly coming from some of my background is in production. It's kind of difficult to look at the situation and understand why things weren't checked ahead of time. Why wasn't the code read to system tested prior to? It seems like it was, that's what we're going to do, and it's a great solution, but there wasn't a test of it before, or you would have seen these holes in productions. And as far as for our police department participating with the military, I think that is a great thing. I think we want to develop those relationships. And from everything I've read online, clearly this was a situation that was much bigger than it was intended, and some mistakes were made. And so rather than, dial down and make accusations, let's move into solution as a community and figure out what we need to fix this. I think it's an excellent teaching moment as to, again, what Ms. Bowser said, that we have a communication problem with these citizens not knowing what's happening. And as much as I am in full support of our police department, I think it was a big mistake on their part not to post on their social media the minute the exercise commenced. And from a crisis management standpoint, while the city council was responsive, administration was silent for almost a week. And that made me feel personally, and I know that it wasn't the intent, but it made me personally feel like the mayor didn't care. And I don't know what the circumstances were beyond that or whether that was a decision, but from the crisis management that I've done for clients, you have to own it, apologize for it, and fix it. And just when CNN reports a live and occurring story, you spit out, say, we're listening, we're trying to find out. Just that reassurance. I think a lot of people needed the reassurance that the mayor was listening and that the mayor was caring. And even though the mayor may not have had all the answers, that there was going to be work done. And so I really appreciate everybody coming together and pulling this session so that people could be heard. But I think we have a really big problem with communication between the city and the citizens, and there's a whole lot of strategies that can fix that I think need to be implemented, and I'm sure those cost money, so that's, I guess, your guys' problem to find it in the budget and fix it. And lastly, what was it? Let's give a shout out to our 911 operators. I didn't hear anything on any of the social media chatter that said that they couldn't get through and that they couldn't get an answer. So there were things that were done right. Let's just pay attention to what was done wrong so we don't repeat it. Thank you.
Thanks, Angel. Appreciate it. Anyone else?
Buenas noches, mi nombre es León Araujo y Luis me va a hacer favor de
Good evening, my name is León Araujo, and if it's okay, I'm going to help him translate.
And we'll reflect that in the
Okay,
time.
thank you. Adelante, León.
Gracias. Soy miembro de la comunidad, tengo un negocio en Ogden.
I'm a member of the community, and I have a business here in Ogden.
Y más allá creo que de lo que puede haber acerca del dinero, si se gastó algún dinero por parte del gobierno.
More than if there was money spent on part of the government for this exercise.
O el motivo por el que se llevó a cabo esta práctica.
Or the reason why this took place.
Hablo por parte de mi comunidad.
I'm speaking on behalf of my community.
La mayoría tengo mucho contacto con gente de habla hispana.
I have a lot of contact with the Hispanic and Spanish-speaking community.
Y la gran mayoría de ellos están inquietos y preocupados por lo que ocurrió en esa fecha.
And most of them are very worried and rattled by what happened.
Yo tengo la fortuna de hablar ante ustedes y agradezco el tiempo. Quiero abreviar 2 puntos importantes, creo yo.
I appreciate the opportunity for being here and letting me talk to you about these, and I have 2 important points that I want to bring up.
Una de ellas es, más allá de la cuestión económica o política,
beyond the political or the financial reasons,
es la tranquilidad que la comunidad requiere
is
para
the
este
peace
tipo de
that
eventos.
our community deserves. That's what's most important.
Considero que este país es grandioso por la confianza que hay con las instituciones.
I believe this country is great because of the trust that exists or that should exist towards their government agencies.
Y perdón por la ignorancia, porque no sé qué fue lo que pasó. No sé si el mayor tenía razón o no de este ejercicio.
And I apologize for my ignorance and not knowing, but I'm not sure, and I wonder if the mayor has justified what happened or not.
O incluso ustedes tenían conocimiento de
or if even us, the city council, had knowledge of it.
So, creo que debemos recuperar esa comunicación y confianza que hay por parte de ustedes como miembros del gobierno de la ciudad, del ejército y la policía.
So I think we need to regain that trust between you and everyone else, the police, and even if involved the military. I think we need to work to regain that trust between you and the community.
So, si existiera algún comunicado por parte de ustedes y que yo con todo gusto pueda hablar con la comunidad, hacerles saber qué fue lo que ocurrió sin especificar los detalles, estaría muy bien.
So if there is a message or if there is a statement that could come from you so I can take back to the community and spread it in the community, then I will be willing and happy to do that.
Ojalá y no exista otro tipo de problema como el que hubo. Es muy importante continuar con esa confianza que hay hacia ustedes y hacia el departamento de la policía.
I hope that this doesn't happen again, and again I reinforce and reemphasize how important it is to maintain the trust that exists right now between our community, the police department, and the government officials here. I think it's very important to maintain that trust.
So, agradezco el tiempo. Muchas gracias.
For your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I mean, muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Luis.
Gracias, Leon.
Anyone else? Okay. I'm seeing no movement.
I'm just speaking. We've shared comments and we've shared our statement and we've shared how we feel and how we're going to fix it. But I'm not sure that, and I apologize, I didn't catch his name, but I'm not sure that this man has actually heard or caught that.
Right.
Do we want Luis to kind of share that now? Like share something
It would be well,
in Spanish.
It occurred to me that perhaps those statements needed to be translated.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Posted,
I can,
in conjunction.
if you don't mind, I can take 1 minute and let Leon know what's going on. Yeah.
Thank you.
So much.
León, para que sepan, el presidente municipal escribió una carta en inglés y se puso en los medios sociales y se explicó exactamente qué fue lo que pasó. Y es una carta que lo explica con mucha amplitud. Entonces, hace rato tuvimos una plática con la administración entre nosotros y él y le pedimos que por favor hicieran algo para escribir algo en español y para buscar la manera de comunicarnos con la comunidad de habla hispana. Entonces, sí, hemos estado trabajando en eso y yo obviamente, yo me voy a coordinar contigo para asegurarnos que le demos seguimiento para buscar la manera de comunicarnos con la gente que no ha recibido esta información. Okay, gracias.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Yeah, it sounded good.
Thank you, Luis.
Appreciate it. I think we all have probably some comments that we'd like to make, but let's just follow our format because we are on the agenda. So we'll have mayor comments.
I appreciate everybody being here, and as has been mentioned, there are a lot of things we have been able to learn through this. So first and foremost, I want to sincerely apologize for the discomfort and fear and what seemed to us and to everybody as some disorganization as how this came together. We are very, very sorry for how that happened, and had we known, we would have never allowed this to happen. As we talked about in the notice, it was supposed to be all indoors. It was supposed to be just after dusk. They were supposed to do 24-hour prior community notice, knocking on the doors, making the phone calls, everything else. There were some things that did not happen, and so We were disappointed, but we're more disappointed in the fact that it did scare and frighten a lot of people, and that communication didn't go out. We have plenty of teaching moments, which is part of the reason you do drills, so you can figure out where your gaps are and where your liabilities are. And we've come away with this for a lot of things that we can improve on. Taylor, I'd agree with you. I would argue that there's not a person up here that isn't really passionate about this community. You wouldn't do this job if you weren't passionate about the community and make the investments in the neighborhoods and trying to bring people in and the stability and the consistency and then the investment. I've lived here my entire life. That hasn't always been the case. And so I think we're all very appreciative of that and want to see some of that continue. So we all share in the passion that we have for this community. The late notice was correct, like we talked about. To say that, I didn't care or was not on my radar. My phone started ringing first thing on Saturday morning. I spent the entire day Saturday on the phone, spent the entire day Monday and Tuesday with our entire staff trying to figure out exactly what happened, where the ball was dropped, what we can do to make sure that this never happens again. And we wanted to make sure we had correct information when we came out. We should have, in retrospect, got on and said, hey, I'm all over this. We absolutely have a commitment and a priority to everybody that's affected. We'll get you the answers. It just took us a little bit of time to do that when you look at the timeline. And so for that, we sincerely apologize. At the end of the day, as mentioned, this is my administration, this is my staff, so this is on me. And so we're going to go to work on correcting it and making improvements on every area that I think that we had some gaps in our process. So again, I apologize. Appreciate y'all being here, and I'm sorry for the discomfort, and we'll go to work on addressing that and making sure that this never happens again.
Thanks, Mayor. Council members, any comments from you? I don't know where you want to start. Want to do this just in an organized way, start at one end, go to the other? Or
Up to you, Chair.
chime in whenever you want.
If no one else wants to lead out, I will, or we can start with Luis. It's up to you.
Yeah, just quick comments. I also want to thank everybody that came out and spoke tonight, and I very quickly just want to thank also everybody on our council that worked to engage with the community when this took place. I want to thank Angela. She's the one that called me. I hadn't heard about it. She doesn't call me often anymore because she's really busy, and when she called me, I wasn't sure what was going on. And she just said something like, well, I'm sure your social media is blowing out. I'm like, no, I don't look at social media that much anymore. What's going on? And anyway, so thank you, Angela, because she organized a community event at the library, and she invited me, and I appreciate it very much. And I also want to thank our leadership. I want to thank our chair and vice chair for leading the efforts to work with the administration behind the scenes and openly, as we did today, to address what happened. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I was gone Friday night, and Saturday morning we got home. I took my two daughters to learn how to drive a stick shift. That's when my phone started blowing up. So we were answering calls on one and teaching to shift on another. But I appreciate all of the work and effort that went into that. Like I said, I wasn't near a computer. I wasn't near social media. I wasn't near that stuff at that time. So I got to the party a little late. So I appreciate our council staff taking an active role in that. I appreciate Ben and Rich and Angela, as mentioned earlier, taking an active role. I appreciate you all letting us know about that, because as was mentioned, we didn't know about it, and we wouldn't have known about it had it not been for the community or for the citizens. So I appreciate that. I thank the mayor for coming out and recognizing those deficiencies and addressing them and being upfront about that. I know that we have a role to play as city council members. We've talked about not allowing this as long as we're here, but maybe there's things that we can do ordinance-wise and put that into zoning so that we can take care of that on our end, so that, believe it or not, we may never we're not all going to be here forever, but we can assure those things that they will not happen again. Yeah, Angela wants to be here forever.
Doug's been here.
Good one. Yeah, and Doug. I'm not sure when. Yeah. But I think there are things that we can do on our end that would assure those safety nets for future, for moving forward. I appreciate the different points that were brought up and raised, and the willingness to work together, both with our office and the administration's office, and getting those things out and trying to be as open and upfront as we could with the community. I don't know what to say. So just thanks to all there has been a lot of man hours put into this, and I appreciate those people willing to do that. And I agree with what was said also. We should commend our 911 operators, because I didn't hear either that never once were they turned away or not given proper information, and so we should commend those also. So thank you.
Thanks, Councilmember Blair.
No, I have something to say.
Yes.
Well, I echo everything that's been said before, and I agree with most of the things that all of you have said as well, and I think you probably saw me post that on social media. I think that I appreciate so much the leadership and the other council members for taking this as seriously as they did, as quickly as they did, and taking their Saturday and Sunday and Monday, every day, to address this issue. I think it's definitely highlighted some things that we need to work on and raise them as priorities. We keep saying, what are the community's priorities? We don't really know. We're trying to get a read on that. We know now that communication and working through this we need to raise that to a higher bar and think about more non-traditional ways of communicating with folks and making sure it's accessible to different populations. I think at the heart of it, the thing that I really was so angry and hurt about on Saturday morning when I heard about what happened, because I slept through it because I was really tired, but was just that this is actually totally out of alignment with what we're actually trying to do with our community. And so that kind of rub is very challenging. Yes, we want to be supportive and make sure our military is trained, but in this particular area especially, this is not the kind of community we want to build or have people feel fear, right? We want people to feel peace in their lives. We want people to feel safe. And that's all I want in my life, and that's what everybody else wants too. But we have to realize that certain populations that live in our community are very vulnerable because of many of their life circumstances that are not in their own control, right? So I think that's just the message I want to leave with, is that we need a bigger vision of why we want to do things or don't want to do things in certain places at certain times to certain people. So, thank you.
Can we start down on this end again? Work back to the middle.
Sure.
He really has.
Doug, you got?
Thank you, Chair. As we mentioned in our work session, if it would have happened in our neighborhood, how would we feel? I think the impact is evident. If I was awakened at 12:30 at night with helicopters overhead and police right across the street, I'd wonder what was happening. There are several goals that we're trying to achieve on this council. One is improving our communications. Funding is going to have to be an intricate part of that operation, but also transparency, and I think they go hand in hand. If you have the right communications, hopefully the transparency will be evident there. We need to own this situation. And I believe with our session in the work session, with having the mayor come forward and giving us a timeline and telling us what is happening, transpired, and what we should have learned and what we have learned is part of that ownership. But there are other things that we need to look at and take care of at this particular time. The East Ogden Bench community, I have some grandkids that go there at the New Bridge, But we've spent a lot of time and effort and many years and funds in trying to improve and make that a place by which people enjoy living there. But this situation did not improve that type of a situation. Our council staff, Janine, put out the information, and the information was to all the council members of what is actually happening. And I appreciate the effort that our council director has taken on this, and also the council staff. But the important thing is that I'm very sorry that this had to happen. I apologize to the citizens of that community for what happened in their neighborhood and for the impact that has happened in their neighborhood. But the other thing that we need to look at is that we need to continue to improve our communication skills in our sessions of working with the citizens in this area. Again, I'm sorry about what happened. It's something that we'll learn from it and move forward, but it's too bad it had to happen in our area there.
Hyer?
Yes, sir.
I have a follow-up comment. Whenever you like to recognize me, whether now or later, just wanted to let you know, please.
Go ahead.
Very quickly then. I just wanted, excuse me? What's that? No,
She's yanking your chain.
Sorry. No, I'll make it very fast, really, because I know we don't want to make it really, really a long night. But Leon made me remember something when he made his comments about the trust between the community and the police and our city representatives. And I just want to say that shortly after I was elected to office, there was a lot of fear in the community because a lot of people in the Hispanic community were feeling a little apprehensive when there were threats coming from the federal government to go after people in the community. The Hispanic community was very nervous. And Chief Watt and the mayor were very accessible and very proactive in working with local Hispanic organizations to come out and interact with the community and show support and reassure the community that they were here and they are here to protect everybody and to make them feel safe. And so I just want to recognize that and as a way to sometimes shed light to the fact that one bad incident can overshadow all the good things that happen in our community and our city. And so I'm very appreciative of the support we have from the administration and from the police department, especially when those types of things have happened in the past.
Thank you. Go ahead. It's your turn.
So I just want to say thank you for all that are here and listening on Facebook and all of the videos that are going on. But I just want to say that I was out of the country at the time, and I have to say that I'm pretty sure I used up my data plan talking to you all and others that had communicated with me. But I want to reassure you that we've listened and that we are a responsive council and that we continue to be transparent. And I believe that I think Councilmember Lopez was alluding to this, but sometimes when bad things happen, we get better. And I think this is one of the things that will make us better. And just even listening tonight, we learned too that we were quick to judge that we didn't, or that the administration didn't send out anything in a Spanish version, but neither did we. And so I think just even looking internally on our side is we need to continue to learn as well. So a bad situation and a bad experience happened, but hopefully we can all learn from this and move in a positive direction. So thank you for being somewhat patient with us as well as we learn through this process.
Thank you. Vice Chair Nadolski.
Thank you, Chair Hyer. Excuse me, listened to all of the feedback tonight and all of the feedback that we've received up to tonight. I don't know what else to say other than what happened was devastating for our community right now. I and we hope people know how much we care about you. And we can say communications should be a priority. We can say we've got work to do and lessons learned. We have to show that we're going to do those things next. And we're all here because we love Ogden. That's why we're here. And I hope you know that we're here to listen to. And if it doesn't feel like it, I want you to know that you can reach me at any time. I'm looking at the crowd, and Malik, you and I have never talked, and I want you to have my business card because Brandon will take it to you. Because you and I have never talked, but I want you to know that you don't have to come here to talk to me. And
I've had experience with a couple of the council members. They're awesome.
Awesome. And so are you, so is your service to our community and to our country. And the comments that you made are unbelievably valid. They're more than valid, they're right. You guys were right. Everybody's been right in what they've said. And the culpability is there. We all apologize because we don't want what happened to our community to happen ever again. And we already had our work cut out for us. We already had a challenge and a divide and a wedge driven between the many communities in our one community. We don't have just one community, and that is already a challenge for us. And this just made it harder. So we've got work to do to step up to match that challenge. And I know from working with everybody behind this dais, both in the administration and the council, I know the hearts that are up here. And the hearts, there are good hearts up here that want to do well. And we will all make mistakes, as is clear that we have. But we hope that you'll stay with us, that you'll invest in these new efforts with us, because we really want to do better. So if you'll do it with us, I make my commitment, and I think everybody else would too, that we'll do it with you too, okay? Taylor, I know your frustrations that you shared. I'm heartbroken by the experience that you had, and I do want you to know that the decision you made to come here to Ogden, that we are really happy that you and your husband made that decision, and that we love you guys, and that we value you, and that if you don't feel it, that's on us. But we want you to know that we do. We love you, and we love everybody who's here and everybody who's been affected. And I want to take you up on that recommendation for the Diversity Commission to identify. We really are looking for help, and clearly we need help. This is not something we can do alone. So if the Diversity Commission is willing, I'll make a request that our staff help draft a specific request that we do that. And of course, that'll have to go through the council process, but I'd like to look for it. And Councilmember White made the point, she's dead right. We didn't reach out in Spanish either. And we've actually hired Brandon Garside, who does speak Spanish, and that was part of our, but where he can't, where he doesn't, we have Luis, but that was part of our thought process, and we didn't take advantage of it. And so we need to do better. I want to thank the administration as well for the accountability, and I know this hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy for anybody, but I appreciate you coming today and having the conversation face to face, because I think it's really important that people see us having the conversation, but also have that conversation with us. So, and for Leon, if you'll help me with that. Leon, I want you to know that we think about what you shared with us a lot.
Quiero que sepas que pensamos mucho en lo que compartiste todo el tiempo.
We want you to know that we do love you, and that we value you and what you bring to our community.
Quiero que sepas que los queremos mucho y respetamos mucho y valoramos mucho lo que ustedes traen a nuestra comunidad.
And that I make the request that if you'll let me, I'd love to come and meet you, to understand you, learn from you, and to build a better relationship both with you and with the people that you represented today.
Y que si está bien contigo y me permites, me gustaría buscar una oportunidad para venir a platicar contigo y conocerlos mejor y conocer mejor los sentimientos y los problemas de los que estás hablando que a veces están pasando en tu comunidad.
And finally, that I appreciate the courage that it took to come here today to speak to us. I know that's something that might seem easy to some of us, but I recognize how hard it was for you.
Que también te agradezco mucho y reconozco tu valor de venir aquí el día de hoy y hablar, porque a veces sé que eso no es fácil.
Finally, I'll just close my remarks by saying that in all that we do, we have got to put people first. We cannot ever lose sight of the people, not only who we serve, the people that we live with, the people we're building this community with. That's you guys and so many out there that we've heard from. You and them and us, we all need to be the priority for everything that we do. And I know it hasn't felt that way through this exercise, but I hope that what we're doing to ask the hard questions and to get the answers and to listen is helping people feel like we're putting them first. But that's not something that ends tonight. It's something that has to continue forever. So I implore everybody to please, everything that we do, let's always put people first. Thank you.
Thanks, Vice Chair Nadolski. My comments, I very much appreciate the civility that has been present tonight, particularly. Sometimes hard conversations can get a little sticky, and tonight they've been good. We've kept to the facts and to the important issues. And as the chair, I want to just thank everyone that's been involved for the civility that's been here. I want to assure you that we have heard what you've said. In any venue that you've said it, we've really put our ear to the ground on this one because, boy, we seriously fumbled. I'm going to use a sports metaphor, and I'm not really a sports guy, but in as much as it's football season, I'm going to use that fumble thing. And my good friend, Vice Chair Nadolski over here, I hope we can recognize that, when people are involved, sometimes you fumble. And we did. But we're going to see if we can't pick that ball up. Last Tuesday, Vice Chair Nadolski and myself, we were in the meeting where the administration expressed the timeline, and I was a little suspicious that maybe human nature of let's see if we can't shift blame and spin. That just did not happen in that meeting. I wish I could express to you the looks on the faces of those involved. They took every small error that was made, and it was huge to them. There was no effort to divert. And that meant a lot to me as we watched that. We, as a council, have to take some responsibility also, because we've talked about this communication thing in the past. I mean, that is an issue that's been ongoing. And so, from my perspective, I think we need to put some priority to some of these things, take these lessons learned, and make sure that we get some application to them. Work on our website so that there's a pool where things can clear, this information can clear, everybody can go to one place and find out. There's just a lot of them, and I cannot mention all of the things that I think we can apply from this. Fortunately, this wasn't a natural disaster or something that people were killed, and that we really had to have some communication that would have failed. This is a safer way to learn those lessons, I think, and we're going to do that. The mayor's made that promise in the previous work session, and I will do my part to make sure that we apply those too, because we, as the administration goes, so does the council, and vice versa. We're kind of all in the same boat. Hopefully, the citizens and you all can understand that though this does not match our values as a city, that this was an anomaly. It was not it's not something that we continue to do over and over again. We have tried to put things in place to make sure that there's good citizen feedback, that there are venues for citizens to reach us. Vice Chair Nadolski is really good at reaching out one-to-one. I am happy to do that also. My information is on the council website. Feel free to call me anytime, and I'll meet knee to knee with you if that's an important thing. But we do want to make sure that our citizens feel like they've been heard, represented, and that those things have been acted upon. And so I will throw my assurance that I'll do my part to make sure that happens. And thank you all again, and to the mayor and Mark and all the department heads. Thank you for stepping up. I think we can all go forward from this and be much better for it. As soon as we heal, we got to do a little healing, but hopefully that'll happen. Okay, look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Lopez, seconded by Vice Chair Nadolski to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Are there any opposed? Okay, thank you all again. We are going to have one more meeting, so that'll start just as soon as our recorder is ready. You're welcome to stay. It's riveting information. But thanks all of you for coming. Ready to go? We'll just give you a minute, then if you're going to leave, we'll let you excuse yourself. Okay. Welcome, everyone, to the November 13th, 2018 Ogden City Redevelopment Agency meeting. Let the roll call reflect that all board members are present. And the first item on our agenda tonight is reports from administration concerning the 1775 Washington Boulevard.
Brandon Cooper will be presenting.
Okay, Mr. Cooper, welcome.
Hiding behind the pole back
I didn't know you were
there.
here. I was like,
I was looking at
The whole thing.
like who's going to be here?
I heard the whole
time.
thing.
I thought you left. The crowd got up and walked out, and I thought you
I
were just
should have left way
join-
earlier than that. But thank you for handling challenging issues, and thank you for your time. I don't know why my presentations always clear the room, but they seem to do that.
I know why.
Yeah, I walked into that one.
Oh, yeah.
You know, things are getting complicated when Janine includes a diagram in your packet. But I promise this isn't as complicated as it might seem. So let me just be brief. You've had a long, tough night. So, this proposal is a resolution to adopt and approve a couple of things, one being an assignment agreement from Mountain America Credit Union and also a billboard relocation agreement that essentially describes the parties in which the billboard is to be relocated. So let me explain a little bit what we're doing and why, and then answer any questions. So the lower box here is the existing billboard. Looks a little bit more like that if you're driving by. It's a pretty big billboard, one of the largest that we approve in the city. And it's currently in the middle of a proposed development by Mountain America Credit Union. It would be right smack in the middle of their proposed building. And so they are looking to purchase that area that the Ogden River Inn currently occupies, including the sign, and to build a brand new Mountain America Credit Union branch. This proposal has been approved already by the Planning Commission and is set the real estate transaction is set to close fairly quickly, subject to the ability for this sign to be relocated. The proposed new location of the sign would be just a couple 100 yards to the north. The reason for this is, I think, twofold. One is that our ordinances allow certain locations for the sign to be relocated to, and two, the owner of the sign, which is Yesco, only would allow for a number of locations to be selected given the direction of the sign, in which way it's viewed, the trade area in which it's serving. So after lots of discussion about where the sign is permitted and where it would be appropriate for the sign owner, this was the location that was selected. And it just so happens that this location is owned by Hoffman Cleaners. So through a lot of discussion, it was decided that the best course of action would be for the city to, or excuse me, the redevelopment agency to purchase Hoffman Cleaners from assignment from Mountain America Credit Union. They are the entity that actually put the property under contract under the terms that we stipulated. And then the assignment would be made to the redevelopment agency to close, take fee simple title to the property, and then allow for this sign to be located. There's a couple of parties involved. There's a sign owner. I mentioned that's Yesco. There's an easement owner, which is LD Acquisitions LLC. They own the ground or the easement in which the sign is located. And then there is the current landowner, which is Mike Moyal, the owner of the Ogden River Inn. If the acquisition is approved tonight of the Hoffman's Cleaners, then the RDA would be the landowner. The RDA could then also allow the easement to take place on the land. Then the sign can be relocated by Yesco, paid for by Mike Moyal as part of the transaction that he's going through with Mountain America. So in terms of the decision tonight, the decision is the acquisition of the Hoffman property to facilitate the others to relocate the sign. That acquisition also is the subsequent granting of the easement necessary for the sign to be placed in. The easement would be owned by, again, LD Acquisitions, and the sign would be owned by Yesco. So that's those are the terms of the deal. It's about a half an acre. It's comprised of 6 parcels. The total purchase price is $700,000. The payment at closing would be $45,000 to accompany the $5,000 that Mountain America has already made as part of the original contract, totaling $50,000. And then the promissory note would be recorded. That would require 4 payments of $162,500, no interest over a period of 4 years. And then there is a business that would be occupying the facility for a year, and rent would accrue, I believe it's $2,400 a month that the RDA would receive for a year to help offset some of those costs. So I hope that flowed with the diagram that you looked at. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Cooper?
I have 2. Number one, the $45,000. I know where that money's coming from. Does this action tonight allocate that money, or do we have to reallocate that money? It's coming. I know. It can be spent now after this, right? Or do we have to reallocate it from that project to this?
I believe because it's general fund money, it would need to be allocated to the RDA through a budget transfer. So that would be a subsequent action.
That would be taken. Okay. And then it talked in here about, let me see, Yesco would release their interest, whatever, on the parcel. Is their interest just the billboard, or do they actually?
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So they would. So the easement would be vacated on the Moyal parcel. The interest that the easement owner and the sign company have in that land would be released, and the new easement would be recorded on the Hoffman property.
Okay.
Yep.
I'd like to go back to what Blair was talking about, the transfer. Do we have to make a special motion for that transfer?
Not tonight. So again, the source of the down payment would be money that was previously appropriated for an incentive for another development that actually never was paid. That was done through the general fund. Because this is an RDA transaction, there would be a subsequent, after tonight, action taken to move that money around.
So that'd be later on then? Okay. When we acquire the property, do we have to demo Hoffman's Cleaners?
Not immediately, no. Again, it will be leased back to a dry cleaning facility, and they will occupy that space for a year. After that lease expires, it's our intent to sell the property to another party. It's a great location for a drive-through type of a business, a restaurant or fast food, something like that can't exist further in the CBD. So that's our intent. We would like to avoid having to make any more payments on the property. So our intent would be to list it immediately at closing. We don't have to wait to list it. We'll list it immediately. It would be subject to that lease, and then we'll try to get someone to take us out of that position and build something that would be a little bit more suitable.
So the demolition would be part of the lease agreement then, or the sale?
Yeah, the sale. It could be.
On this billboard sign, would it be smaller than what it is now, or would it be the same size?
Same size.
Not electronic? Would they put electronic board up there?
No. It would be the same size, same type of signage. Same height, same...
Follow-up, do you mind?
No, go ahead.
I was just wondering, do you foresee, I think I know the answer to this question, but I'll ask anyway. Do you foresee any challenges with having that billboard in that location? You know, once you do want to use that space for something else, do you foresee any challenges with that?
There could be. We think we found a location on the Hoffman property that works not only for existing businesses, but any future development. So we're actually, we've engaged a civil engineer to do a site plan design before we close so that we can understand what the Planning Commission would approve potentially in the future and avoid having any hassles with the sign. It is a...
Moving the sign around.
Yeah, we can't do that anymore. So it is a big impact on a site, even, you know, this is not a big site. So we want to make sure it's right where it needs to be.
I assume it'll be right near a property line so that it's not right in the smack in the middle of the... go back another one. There you go. So it's a smaller box, but...
Right, this box is just covering the sign itself. It's a big sign. That was more for the easement. So that's really the size of the easement. I know that's not scientific at all. Yeah.
Where the post is.
But that's pretty much where it would go. There would be an approach that would be created off of Washington and a little landscape island there. The idea is to connect the Firestone parking lot with this parking lot, and so it would kind of reside in that front area and be out of the way. It's so tall that it wouldn't impede traffic in any direction.
So the leasing the building to another dry cleaners, is there a reason that you would just do it for a year, or would you just do it until a new buyer took over?
Right now, that's all they wanted from us. I think the idea was they were going to take that business and operate it in another location, so they just needed at least a year for a transition time. Certainly, if we haven't sold the building by then, we would try to keep them as long as possible because that would be revenue to offset the...
Yeah, I don't want to be in the landlord business, but it makes more sense to get some revenue than not.
Right.
So
that was their desire, not ours, but we would
I see.
have
Okay,
to be
that's
happy
how
to
that
keep
worked.
them.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
I just have one. Is there still a due diligence phase with the acquisition? And I assume there would be. Would that include any environmental?
So we've completed that. We haven't been able to bore in the slab of the building, but we've bored a bunch of holes in the parking lot and around the building, and that was our number one concern, being a dry cleaner. The environmental studies have come back clean, groundwater's clean, soil is clean. We would take some subsequent borings in the building once the building's demoed. If we did find something there from a leaking drain or something, then we would have to do some mitigation. In other places like this, vapor barriers are usually typical to kind of separate that stuff that would be in the soil, the groundwater, from a new building. That would be a mitigating effort. But the down gradient, so the flow of the groundwater, is northwest, and we've looked in those areas and we haven't found any potential contaminants.
Okay. Do you know if the environmental assessment included PCBs or polychloric biphenyls?
Usually they do in a general sense, but I can't speak to that specifically, but I can find out and get back to you.
That's a legacy effect of dry cleaners specifically that we might want to be mindful of. And I'm just guessing, but I would actually think the groundwater would flow the other direction toward the river in a hyporheic exchange.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the other direction. Yeah, everything, I'm so used to the downtown, it goes northwest, but you're right, it does come southwest.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, if you can look into the PCB thing.
Yeah, I'll get back to you.
That's from what I know, I'm not an environmental contaminant specialist by any means, but we often see a link between
right.
legacy uses.
And we've done 4 of these now, and generally, there's
Okay.
kind of that laundry list of things they look for, so I'll double check.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other comments for Brandon or questions?
Can you go over the risk factor? Are we assuming certain amount of risk, and the other parties, are they assuming a certain amount of risk?
The risk that the RDA is assuming if this purchase was to be approved is the full $700,000 payment. Although we have a plan to just pay the $50,000 or the $45,000 and then sell it, we may not be able to sell it for what we owe. We may not be able to sell it in a time that would avoid us having to pay additional future payments. So it's safe to assume that the RDA would be committing to the full $700,000 payment.
Another party can't come in and purchase the property it'll be set in that direction then?
Sure, yeah. So our intent, again, is to sell it, to list it immediately after taking ownership with a commercial broker so that there's some interest being generated during the time that it's being occupied, and then try to sell it to someone who would build something that would be desirable for that location. And again, they could pay us what we owe on the property. They could pay us more. They could pay us less. It depends on how those things go. There is a demolition factored into that, so depending on what market value is for that time, those are all things we'd have to consider.
Else? Okay, thank you. We would like to receive input from the public on this. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address this application or this proposal? Okay, seeing none, board members, look for a motion.
Chair Hyer, I will go ahead and make a motion that we adopt proposed resolution 2018-12.
We have a motion by Board Member Blair, seconded by Board Member White, to adopt Resolution 2018-12. This is a roll call vote.
Board Member Blair?
Aye.
Board Member Choberka?
Aye.
Board Member Lopez?
Aye.
Board Member Stevens?
Aye.
Board Member White?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nadolski?
Aye.
Chair Hyer.
Aye. That passes. Next item on our agenda is public comments. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the redevelopment agency? Seeing no movement, comments from the executive director?
I would just add, we certainly appreciate your support with this, but one of the risks also is that the Mountain America Credit Union building deal falls through in the river and stays in its current condition. So there is a financial risk up front, but there's also a big community liability not improving that really key critical area. So we appreciate the support and look forward to that. Brandon's worked really hard trying to move all these pieces to get this deal to come together. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any comments?
I'll just say that I recognize that as well and appreciate the way in which you've assembled the proposals for this. I know it's not a straightforward situation, but some of the challenges we face aren't straightforward either. But we appreciate the hard work you guys have done and putting this to us this way.
Any other comments? I want to echo what Vice Chair Nadolski has said about that. I was on the Planning Commission when we started working on this river project, and there were a certain set of standards that we put forth, and it's been evident that while those were certainly desirable, they've been challenging right on Washington Boulevard. So this is a good way to enable the transition into that river project, and it's not a perfect deal, but it's pretty good, pretty darn good. So good on you, and we'll keep plowing forward. So thank you so much. Okay, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion by Board Member Lopez, seconded by Vice Chair Nadolski to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's a wrap, folks.